God, I am sweating. These lights are hot. In 3, 2, 1. Well, it is 2023. Welcome to 2023 and the first chapter of Coleman On Purpose of this year. It is your man, David J. Coleman, here with a fresh and wonderful and bold new chapter of Coleman On Purpose. This year has started out great already. You know, we're only a few days into the new year, and I have had a chance to partake in one of my good friends' wedding. I've known them since college, and it was wonderful seeing them both tie the knot finally after all of these years. It was a wonderful time. This is the second time I've been a best man in someone's wedding. So it was a very wonderful experience for me. I had a beautiful, beautiful time. And this year is really, really, really looking up. There are so many things I have to look forward to this year from, just the perspective of life and things I'm trying to do with this podcast alone. I want to thank all of you that have been so supportive of it. Please go and listen to some of the old episodes and share these episodes with others, especially this one, because this one came up out of not nowhere. It actually, first, before I even begin this chapter, I want to give you the definition, because this chapter is called, this is my 13th chapter, and it's called, What is a Real Man? And I know that topic kind of shot out and people get all these different ideas about what this is going to entail. And you just got to listen so I can break it down for you. So first, I want to start out because I looked up some definitions in the dictionary. First, the word masculine, and I'm going to read it to you. It has the word masculine as an adjective. It says having qualities or an appearance traditionally associated with men or boys. He gave the example. He is an outstandingly handsome and robust, very masculine, relating to men or boys, male, a masculine working environment. So qualities or attributes regarded as characteristic of men or boys. That was what masculinity was. So that's what I looked up after that. I said, okay, masculinity, not too far from it. But Wikipedia breaks it down into a much more in-depth type definition, which says masculinity is a set of attributes, behaviors, and roles associated with men and boys. Masculinity can be theoretically understood as socially constructed. I'm going to read that one more time. Masculinity can be theoretically, so in theory, understood as socially constructed, and there is also evidence that some behaviors considered masculine are influenced by both cultural factors and biological factors. Break that down. So this whole basically chapter came from it was like about a 45 to 50 minute video that was sent to me by my ex-wife. Now, when I received it, I was happy because she always sends me stuff that is very encouraging. She knows me. She knows my process. She knows me. She knows the things that I've kind of been through in life. And I was listening to it. It was from I guess it was a volume 3 of something called Emotions. Emotions. I remember going to a Emotions conference with my father back in the day in church. T.D. Jakes was hosting it, and we visited one. I think it was down in Atlanta. It was like Manpower, and he was selling that book, Emotions. I remember having that book. I don't know where it is now, but I did have that book at one point in time when I was younger, like in 14, 15, maybe 16. But it was called Emotions Cuffing Season, Volume 3, and it was sent to me. When I first turned it on, I automatically listen to things, and if I feel like something is on there that irks me, I usually will turn it off. And I think at the point, the person that was heading off this talk first started talking about this, he was going into this topic of, men and men taking back their, masculinity, or just taking back things, what real men should be, to their wives, to their families. But he said something that really, I don't know if it struck a nerve with me, but he basically said, I am a pastor and I'm still human, so we make mistakes also, just like you all make mistakes. When I hear stuff like that, for me, it's just like an actor or a pastor or anyone who has a calling or has fallen into these roles of what they want to be or become. That is a role that you were either called to, or you were chosen, or you got into. So I don't always believe that, you're the same. I do believe sometimes you are held sometimes to a higher standard. Yes, you are still human. Yes, you can still make mistakes, but there are different things that you are accountable for when you step into those roles. And that's just my thought on that. And my thought can definitely evolve, but that's where I am right now with that. So it kind of struck me the wrong way. I was like, I'm cutting this off, but I didn't, because I'm trying to listen past all the other distractions and all the other things, because I really wanted to get into why this was sent and what it was and what it really meant. But when I listened to the entire dialogue of five men sitting up on the panel, four or five men that were sitting up on the panel, I listened all the way through, and there were so many profound and great points that were made, but it related back to even me, even though I didn't relate with every single thing that was in there, because I had a much different experience than all of these five men that were sitting up there. My experience was different, and that's what's expected, because everybody is supposed to have their own experience or their own journey that comes along with, walking through this thing called life. But I heard him point out a few things. There was one particular section that I really began to dissect, and he was talking about men learning gentleness. Now, before I delve into this learning gentleness part, I just want to put out all of this before I even start talking about it, because I'm going to be breaking down things. I'm going to be telling stories. Everything that I'm talking about here is stuff that I have worked through, or I'm working through in therapy, and I'm at a place where I can begin to talk about this, because I have moved past a lot of these things. I'm no longer, bitter or mad about these things. I just want to open up the discussion and have more people tell their experiences, because everything is not just one way or another way. There's so much in between with everything that we talk about. So he was basically saying men have not learned gentleness. He said, we're dying gentle deaths because being so full up of hurt, because you're trying to be changed into something. You're not trying to be a man, basically. This is kind of what I entail from that. You're not trying to be a man because you're trying to be changed into something like a harder shell or a harder core. So you're not able to be gentle when it comes down to some of those things. And I believe sometimes I in life had a reverse of what I listened to these guys talk about in their experience. They even talked about a section where it says, talk about the part of men being gentle when it comes to just sex, where, you're just gentle when you want some or something like that. And of course, like I talked about in my earlier chapters, I wasn't really exposed to that. I learned it in different ways. So though, my ways may have been more like one of the ways was a little bit more forced. And then one way is you learn it a different way than what the world has taught us it's supposed to be learned. So when I was listening to that, I was like, I basically had a reverse of that experience. And I'm going to give you a story before I explain why my experience was reversed. Now, like I said, these stories that I'm telling are in no way, I'm not bitter about it or anything like that. There was a time when I was in high school, and I remember this specifically, and I think I am going to use this piece of paper that I still have to this day, that was in one of my senior books that I frequently look at. And you can tell that it's like crumpled up and tattered up, and kind of just because I was very upset that day. So we had a thing called a senior dinner dance. Now, this is the dance that comes before the prom. And at my high school, we vote for different things that we are supposed to like what someone is the best this or the best that. It could be the best dressed, the class clown. But there was a specific category that I really don't remember being in the categories before. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I would like to know who the predecessors of this category were at the senior dinner dance. But it was a category, was the sweetest in class. And as I'm talking about this, I really, it doesn't really make me emotional or anything like that. It just reminds me because, like I was saying, I learned the reverse of what these people are talking about. When you're talking about being gentle, I was always gentle. I was always pretty kind. I always tried to walk in love. And I was teased a lot about the way that I acted or the way that I just was, my being. And I can remember being humiliated. No, like seriously humiliated when I won the award for sweetest because I knew what it was actually for. Because people laughed when I went up there, something like you would see in a movie or something like that. As I was going to accept my award, people were cracking up, laughing. I'm in front of my whole senior class, and everyone is laughing because I won out of many votes of the whole senior class a award for being the sweetest. Now, I don't care who voted for what or whatever. For me, it was a traumatic thing for me because I had always been told all of my life from being, in junior high, high school, all of that, that I was either gay or I was, a fag or all of these different words that were used back then. They were used to diminish me or tear down who I really was at the core, who David is, a light, a person that wants to be happy, a person that wants to write, be creative, just different. And everybody handles their things differently. So I remember going home and just kind of trying to brush it off because I did probably carry myself in just a very free way when I was in high school. And, that was just me. That's who I was. So when I got that award, I wasn't happy about it. As you like, I'm gonna put up a picture of it because it shows like I basically maybe have crumpled it up or I just was really like I just threw it somewhere. But I'm glad I kept it because to this day, it has built me and made me who I am and has taught me lessons, about caring too much about what everybody else thinks. Or if I had known the power, even in just that little gesture, even though it might have been a joke or a prank or whatever it was back then, if I had known the power that I still held back then and not allowed myself to take myself through all of the back things that I was called or what all those different things, like all the emotions flared up from that because it takes a lot of guts to go up there and accept an award like that. Of course, I don't know if the superintendent, because she's the one I remember, gave the award to me, if she was aware of like the premise behind it. But to me, it wasn't, it might have been funny at the time, but it gives me like, sometimes there will be like flashbacks of that. So when I talk about learning things in reverse, that's how I don't remember, I remember people trying to be like, you need to go into a sport. I want to be in track, basketball, all of these different things that really didn't interest me that much. I was just trying to do it to either fit in or maybe to just get a letter on my jacket, or I didn't even end up getting a jacket. But those things didn't interest me. I loved band. I loved Broadway Exit. I loved to write. I loved when we had a after school program where we wrote a script, one of the scripts in school, and we were going to record and film. I've always loved stuff like that. Talking, of course, I was great at it. So I was not trying to be any type of way. I was just trying to be myself. But you run into opposition when people see things that are different than what they are many, many times. So during these times, I would run into individuals that got it. They got who I was. They knew who I were. They made me feel comfortable with myself. They encouraged me. They affirmed me. And they saw something in me that helped me along. That could have been a teacher. That could have been some of the friends and some who I still talk to this day who still love me the same and just shower me with just be who you are and be that different person, be that light, be weird. That's what I am. And so I was always different than, what the social norm of what you're supposed to act like or be like. Of course, I tried to fit in for a while. I tried to learn in reverse. I tried to be like, okay, I'm going to try to be a little tough when I see a group of people that I walk by. And I carried that with me all the way, maybe through college and part of my life in church. Like when I got to be an adult, it was like, you have to be a certain way. You can't really show all of that. You can't really be all of that. So it was only in those moments when I would do something that I loved, like writing a play or directing something or doing mime or doing something that artistic that really brought something out of me, that I would actually really feel it. And I'd be like, okay, this is where I belong. This is where I am. This is my comfort zone. And I would push myself sometimes out of those zones so I could see how far I could go, but it didn't bring me happiness. It just brought me stress. It brought me anxiety. It just brought me to a different place, which I didn't care for. So a lot of times I allowed those few negatives that seemed so strong at the time, which could have come from anybody, to outweigh the positive reinforcement that I was getting from other people. I was getting so much positive. When I think back, there were more positive people in my life than those negatives, but those negative things would always drag me down to a place. So that's why sometimes I'm not even comfortable being around certain people who may be more, have a more like masculine. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just have more, it seems so masculine, or seems what we've said is a man. I haven't been comfortable with that, because those are some of the same people that said different things or talked behind my back or did things. And so I'm in this like uncomfortable space sometimes, because it's like, how am I supposed to be? But I find as I become, more adult and really just walk in who I am, that it's all natural. It's there. You're free. You're not caring about what anyone else thinks about what you do, who you are, the way you present yourself, how you talk, how you walk. And the older I get, the less I care. And that's what I want younger people to grasp. At these young ages, yes, it's important to, like, you want to fit in and do all of that. But I'm telling you, the more you build yourself up at that young age to be an individual, which I'm so proud of a lot of this generation for breaking a lot of these norms and being like, I am going to be who I am, regardless of whatever, because I need to walk this journey. I need to do what I'm doing, because this is how I feel good in this skin. And so I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them for doing that. So I encourage, anybody that may be feeling like I'm different. I'm not, I don't feel like I fit in with a group or a core of people, or these people kind of look at me funny when I'm around. I'm still working through some of that. And a lot of that sometimes can be, within some of the groups I am sometimes in church, because you're trying to hold up a certain standard. And that's not necessarily, you don't have to be like that, because I'm sure church people will embrace me the way that I am nowadays. It's different than it was back then. We're learning to just see people where they are and accept who they are. So be who you are comfortably. It's going to help you to love yourself more. That's my first point. Be who you are comfortably, because it's going to help you love yourself even more. So a person's standard, also I wrote this down, a person's standard of how you should act or be is usually a projection of what they wish they could have been, or what they have been used to seeing. A lot of times, either parents or friends or just associates in general will project onto you something that they long to be within themselves. They're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could be kind of like that and be kind of carefree and do. I mean, I could find people sometimes when I'm living or just being myself, kind of just looking out in the distance and being like, dang, I really wish I could. I could be, that brave or that bold or do that. Or they're just like, man, this is the only way that I know. So I'm going to continue passing this on, because this is all that I know. This is all that I see. I'm not trying to grow no more. I'm not trying to do no more. This is what's worked for me. So it's going to have to work for you. But that is not the case. So never listen to what a person's standard of you is. These are just some of my tips. Now, you don't have to listen to them. I am not the end all say all of all things. But these are things that have helped me through to grasp a better understanding of like who I am as a man. And I'm going to go further into that because I don't mind being called a man, but let me explain to you that. Let me say one more thing. You can never be unique if you are like everyone else. Remember, I always say at the end of every episode, you are unique, you are loved. You can't be unique if you're like everyone else. Everyone was created individually and separately for a purpose. There is a purpose for every single person out here. So if you're walking somebody's same path or acting like everyone else, then you're not walking in what your purpose is. You're walking in what everybody else's purposes are as a conjoint people. So be an individual, walk in your truth, and separate yourself. Be separate because that's going to lead you to where your purpose is. Walk in that individuality as who you are, as a human, as a person with a heart, as a person with feelings, as a person with separate emotions and ideas. So that falls right into the same category of just being who you are because it leads you to your purpose. So we come to the question that I started this chapter with. So what is a real man? Let me break it down of what I captured. My birth certificate looked at my genetics and told me I'm a man. That's what the birth certificate says. I have no problem with that. I personally am fine with that. But more than that, I am a real human. The only time I need to say this or check that box is maybe on an application, or if I'm auditioning maybe for a role and it calls for such and such because this is what the world has set it up as. Yeah, go ahead. I don't mind. But I never really have to use that a lot. You don't go up, people don't say, "Who are you?" "I'm man." I say, "I'm David." So some of the journeys are more complicated than others. I will not speak on other people's journeys. This is my journey. That's what I'm explaining on this podcast. And the more people that are open with themselves and are able to walk us through that journey and tell us about themselves, we'll be able to understand that better. But all I can do is walk you through my journey. So everybody's journey is different. It can be a little bit more complex. I won't speak on that because I've never walked in those shoes. But I pray that people let people walk out their journey of discovery and their truth. Let people walk it out. Don't try to control or manipulate what a person is feeling or what their journey is. Let them walk that out themselves. They have to grow. They have to learn. They have to be. Let people be. And that's what we're not willing to do a lot in society today. We're not letting people be. We're bringing all of what we think we know onto them, and we're giving them anxiety. We're giving them depression. We're giving them all of these things because they feel like they can never live up to what the standards of whatever else is around in the world has given. So let them be them and do that. You can do whatever from the outskirts or have your own feelings about it, but let them walk it out. That's all that I really capture, or what I want to say about that portion. So being a man or a real man does not define me. There is so much more. And I'm going to say this. I am a soul created by God to bring light to those around me. I am David. I am a creative. I am artistic. I am intelligent. I am God-fearing. I walk in truth. I walk in peace. I am happy. I am whole. I am chosen. I am fearless. I am bold. I'm a warrior. And I am everything I'm supposed to be for this present time. These are some of the affirmations that I've gone by. These are some of the things that I strive for, and I'm beginning to run towards. Not just strive, I'm running towards these things so that I can continue to please the Lord and walk through my life being unashamedly me. Not that same shy, fearful person from back in high school that didn't really know who he was, and I let everyone else define that. I can be unashamedly me and be the man that I'm supposed to be. Because y'all want to say I'm a man, but I'm David. So I'm going to leave this part of the podcast at that. But I want you to really take in everything that I've said. I hope you really and truly enjoyed what I had to say about what is a real man. You've stuck in there, you've listened. You got to tell me what you think about what this chapter meant to you, if you agreed, if you disagreed. We can talk about these things. I would love to hear from you about this topic because this is part of me. This is what means a lot to me. So I would love to hear input on this episode. Please share it because I want more people to know that they are loved regardless of whatever they are walking through or whatever their journey is. They are still loved. We need to give more of that to people who are trying to find out, really come into their purpose, really come into who they are. So please share this. I am on YouTube at Deluxe Dave, DeluxeDave, where you can watch this in live and living color. Or you can also follow me on TikTok, which I'm David J. Coleman, and I am also on Coleman On Purpose on TikTok, which I'm adding things little by little there of some of the snippets from some of these episodes and different things I'm going to put on there. So please follow me there also. I want to remind you once again, you are unique, you are loved, and you are created for greatness. I will see you on the next chapter.